Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks. This video is about the rapture, which is a concept derived through some passages in the Bible. As most things, different denominations have different opinions on this, but basically the theory is that there will be a rapture, a snatching away of people, the catching away of Christians, those that are saved, and the idea that they will vanish just before things turn nasty at the end of time. And that will happen just before the Great Tribulation starts, the tribulation which is thought to be 7 years long, 7 years of tribulation, Armageddon, etc. Before the return of Jesus and Judgment Day at the end. Now, I'm not against the idea of the rapture, sign me up. I don't want to be around to suffer, but there is very little scriptural evidence for this. 7 years tribulation, those 7 years are derived from the book of Daniel. That in of itself isn't concrete, but it has a lot more going for it than the rapture. The word rapture never appears in the Bible. Yes, I know that the term caught up is translated into Latin is rapturo or something like that. But look, we will look at some of the scriptures in a moment. But like I said, I've nothing against the concept of it, but biblically, it doesn't stack up. Not the concept of it happening 7 years before anyhow. But first, let's look at where the concept come from. Well, once again, it goes back to the Roman Empire. It says here, the origins of the rapture are in the Counter-Reformation move of Papal Rome in the 16th century. Pope Leo authorized 3 Jesuit priests to reinterpret Daniel's 70 weeks of prophecy, the book of Revelation and Ezekiel. The goal of these Jesuits was to take the heat of the Reformation away from the papacy and the Protestant association of the Antichrist with the Pope. It was originally called Futurism, which later became the Rapture, and this was then continued by this fella here called Edward Irving, who was the main figure, Church of Scotland, the Catholic Apostolic Church, who many years later claimed in 1830 during one of his church sessions, he claimed a young Scottish girl named Margaret MacDonald fell into a trance, and after several hours of vision and prophesying, she revealed that Christ's return would occur in 2 phases, not just one. So it's a similar strategy to the many apparitions of Mary. Oh look, there she is. Everyone must now use a rosary, she says, to pray with vain repetitions. Oh look, this girl in Scotland, she went into a trance and said Jesus would return in 2 phases. Oh well then, there you have it, we have the rapture. Now I've noticed a few certain YouTubers, ones that seem to not be shadow banned, Christian ones who get quite a lot of views, who talk about the United Nations and the end times and so forth. And for the most part, what they say, it seems okay. Yet they all seem to be linked with one another. They're all cross-promoting one another. They're all doing interviews with one another constantly. And I've seen this strategy before with the Truth Movement, with the CO Network. And there seems to be a team of gatekeepers on YouTube for every subject you can think of, whether it's finance, banking, or even gardening. Seriously, this is how they control the narrative. I've got more to say on this in another video, but the one thing I noticed with this particular group of Christian channels that cross-promote one another, the thing I noticed when I started analysing their content, they all seem to be pushing very heavily the concept of a rapture, and of a rapture that will happen 7 years before Jesus returns. It's not like they don't say, oh, well, maybe it will happen, or it's a possibility that a rapture might happen, or it's definitely going to happen. I'll quote one of them from a video here. They said, make no mistake, the rapture is imminent. It could happen at any moment, as the 7-year tribulation looks like it might be about to start later this year. Or another will say, I'm getting the tingling feeling. Jesus is coming soon. He's coming to take me away, because the 7-year tribulation is about to start. I can't wait, they say. So this concept of the rapture before the 7-year tribulation for many is not in any doubt whatsoever. Well, that's the message they are presenting to the public. It's a definite thing. It's going to happen, these people say. While at the same time, if you look at the Gospels, there is virtually no support for this theory whatsoever. Now, if you see someone, in my opinion, right, if you see someone who says that the rapture is definitely going to happen before the tribulation, in my opinion, they are either deceived or they are deliberately deceiving you. Because they don't know this. They don't know. So how can they claim it as a given? Neither Jesus nor the apostles taught that such an event before the 7-year tribulation will occur. It really has very little scriptural support. One piece of scripture used by rapture believers is Thessalonians 4:16-17. So it says, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord." Now this may sound like a rapture, but it's being resurrected, right? This is a reference to the doctrine of the bodily resurrection of the saints, the resurrection on the last day, on Judgment Day. That's what it seems to me. And this is from the Apostle Paul. And if you read it in context, Paul is addressing the topic of the resurrection of the believers who have died before Christ's return, and those, as it states, which are alive and remain, and has nothing to say about removal of the church prior to or during the tribulation. Paul explains that believers who have died will be resurrected at the return of Christ, and those who are alive at that time and remain alive will receive their glorified bodies automatically when Jesus comes down from heaven. It's nothing about a rapture 7 years before Jesus returns, you know? I mean, I could go on, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, look, in the book of Revelation, there are many instances I could bring up, but here is just one. Revelation 13:7. "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations." So we're talking in this part, we're talking about the beast. This is in tribulation time in the book of Revelation, where you have the mark of the beast, the worshipping of the image of the beast. And I'll say it again. "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations." So the beast is going to make war with the saints in the time of tribulation. Who are the saints? The saints are God's children. So shouldn't God's children already have been raptured away? They tell you the rapture comes before tribulation, yet the tribulation is telling you the saints are going to be martyred. And these saints getting raptured before the tribulation, are they a different class of saint? Is that what you're saying? What's going on here? There's many instances of martyrs and Christians being persecuted in the time of tribulation. And you have people say, a great number of people during the tribulation will suddenly place their faith in Jesus. That's the saints of tribulation. So what you're saying, they get to suffer while the other ones get a free pass? Jesus says that he will come at an hour we do not know and do not expect. So there's no point trying to guess. But the rapture concept, to me, it's a bit iffy, especially when I see it being pushed by certain people. It could be a bit of a psychological operation, a trick to it, one that is specifically aimed at Christians, specifically aimed at believers, those who have faith, maybe in order to screw around with their faith. I mean, there's even movies about it. One with Nicolas Cage, Left Behind. And that movie, I think there's a couple of movies now, that movie was based on a series of books, a series of 16 Left Behind books. These books were in the New York bestsellers list on numerous occasions. They were very popular. Do you think something popular will be telling you the truth, or is it maybe, perhaps, misleading people? Maybe it's to confuse people. Is it possible that this rapture concept is to confuse people, confuse them about the end times, so they mix up what's where in the timeline. Make a load of Christians believe in it, so they are all waiting around for some big vanishing event to happen, and not actually realize that maybe things are actually happening around them and before their eyes. Maybe it makes them complacent, Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I'm saved. I'm going to be beamed up before anything bad happens. Makes them complacent. What does it say? It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeketh whom he may devour. Yet you could be made complacent by this rapture concept at a time when you need to be alert, when you need to be paying attention. People saying, oh, well, I'm still here, so we can't be in the tribulation time yet. But then what happens if they're not beamed up and things start going real bad around them? The man of sin is revealed and the mark of the beast comes around. They're going to wonder, hey, what happened to the rapture? Did somebody lie to me? Is their faith then going to waver? Will they be open to being deceived some more? Look, I'm not adverse to the concept of the rapture, but scripturally, it's a weak concept. And I would be very wary. I'd be very wary of people who blindly believe in it and tell you it's going to happen definitely, because they don't know. And you have to wonder, why would they push such a concept so heavily? Why not just say, well, we don't know for sure. I don't really know. As opposed to constantly telling their audience that it's going to happen. It's going to happen anytime soon. It seems a dubious way of carrying on. They are, tickling the ears of the public, telling them what they want to hear, in my opinion anyway. So personally, given that it has very little biblical reason for it, I wouldn't be expecting it. The default outlook would be, don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Any resurrection in the Bible, getting caught up in the clouds, etc., I would imagine would be when you're saved. Just don't be expecting it 7 years before, And hey, if it happens, all well and good. And anyway, it's out of your control anyway. I wouldn't be expecting it because someone told you this. Yeah? I'll leave you with this one. Matthew 24:36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man. No, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. Thank you for your time. And I'll see you later.